What has not been a ton of fun has been the Saints saga with Derek Carr this offseason. There's just a lot of he said, she said here, and that's difficult to cover because there's just so much that you don't know. But it's all we have to go off of. And so I'm here to react to what we have to go off of. We certainly know that Derek Carr is dealing with an injury. We certainly know that there have been conflicting reports about it, some from the media, some from him. And we certainly know that the Saints selected a quarterback as high as the franchise has in 50 years with Tyler Shough in the second round. So there are some things we know, but there's a lot we don't. And that's where the speculation comes in. That's where the conflict comes in. That's where the disconnect comes in with the Saints and Derek Carr, the fan base, and how that world spins round. This was Ian Rappaport on the Pat McAfee Show earlier this week, talking about what he's hearing in regards to the Saints and Derek Carr.
Derek Carr, Jane Slater wrote a bunch of updates. He found out his shoulder was hurt once he started working out again. That's why it took so long. The Saints are trying to figure out what they want to do. Derek Carr contemplating surgery, not surgery.
That is a long tweet.
Yeah, long. I mean, through it all. We have 1 minute, literally. What do you think the Derek Carr situation is? They're all trying to figure it out still?
I believe Derek Carr would like to not have surgery. I believe he would like to rehab, get this thing right, get back on the field for week 1, which my understanding is still at least a possibility, but there's been no firm, he's not having surgery, he's good to go, or he is having surgery. And if he has surgery, it's major, potentially not playing next season. That's what nobody wants. So I believe he is doing what he can now to try to get back on the field for week 1, and we will see where it ends up.
Tyler Shough, Louisville.
So that's what Ian Rappaport has to say. And I realize that's not earth-shattering news with Derek Carr. And I realize the very popular thing to do is to just absolutely lambaste Derek Carr. And I've certainly come on here and said that I thought that this marriage needed a divorce. I've said that. But I'm willing to listen to new information. I'm willing to look at both perspectives. I'm willing to try to understand to the best of my information what's going on here. And it's reasonable and really in character for Derek Carr to try to play. We've seen him play through things in 2 seasons with the Saints that, based on his performance and how it looked aesthetically, he probably shouldn't have been out there. And we've seen him try to fight his way back and be out on the field. That is inarguable. Whether you think Derek Carr gives the Saints the best chance to win this year, or you despise the guy and want him 5 million miles away from New Orleans. Either way you look at this, it's inarguable that he has played through pain as the Saints quarterback. I have no earthly idea what Derek Carr's shoulder feels like. None. You got Diana Rossini going on the podcast going, it feels like trade bait. I'm not real sure there's an injury. You've got Ian Rappaport coming on here and saying, well, there is an injury, and it's just a matter of whether or not he can have the surgery. And then you've got the motives of everyone that's involved here with the 2 methods of handling the injury. Does Derek Carr want to play? Does he want to try to tough this thing out and leave surgery as the last resort? Do the Saints want him to play? Or are they done and they just want to get Tyler Shough in there? Are they on the same page about that? That's generally a decision that's made between the 2 parties, Carr and the Saints, and obviously the player is going to have the ultimate decision to make based on his body. He gets to make that call. Certainly, his employer can say this is what we think, but the player's going to make that call. What I'm struggling with here is finding out the motive and ultimately what happens here. Here's what I think. I'm willing to just say what I think, as long as you know, the listener knows, there's a disclaimer on the front of this. Hunt is well aware he does not know all the information here. I'm not a doctor. I'm not Derek Carr. I'm not Mickey Loomis. I'm not Kellen Moore. I don't have all the information. All I can do is pretty much speculate. Here's what I think. I think the Saints have determined that their best course of action in the future and the best thing for the franchise is to try to make Tyler Shough the franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. I don't think there is anybody in that building that believes that in the next 5 seasons, Derek Carr is going to pilot the Saints to a Super Bowl championship. And isn't that why we're showing up? Isn't that why we're here? To win? And I think the organization believes that they need to move on. Now, that's counterintuitive to what generally is the operating procedure over there, which is generally, who gives us the best chance to win the next Sunday? We have to win the next Sunday. And that can cause some short-sightedness. But I think there's a reasonable chance that with a new coaching staff in there, the expectation can be altered a little bit. When Sean Payton's there for year 8, 9, 10, the expectation is what it is. Win the South, get in the playoffs, win playoff games, get to the Super Bowl. That's the expectation. And when Dennis Allen takes over an organization that's humming like that and has a really good defense, and you feel like you've addressed quarterback, once with Jameis Winston, once with Derek Carr, the expectation is we got to go win. Can you finally take a step back there and realize that probably not going to be with Derek Carr? So the question is, do the Saints want him to go get this surgery and just rule him out and stick a fork in it and eat the money? It costs what it costs. It's a saying. Well, how much it costs what it costs. Well, how much does it cost to get rid of Derek Carr? It costs what it costs. Sometimes you just got to do it. Is there any appetite for Derek Carr to come back and be the quarterback of this team? Based on the smoke that's been around, when did the shoulder injury happen? Why hasn't this been addressed earlier? When is treatment coming? What are we doing for treatment? Like, this is the franchise quarterback. Shouldn't these decisions be made pretty quickly after the season ends? And then there's this PR war where you've got Derek Carr going and preaching the sermon, saying some people need to keep their mouths shut, and he does have a shoulder injury, and everything's fine with the Saints. And then you've got whoever's talking to Diana Rossini in that side of the public relations war. And look, this is one that I'm going to tread very lightly on, but you do have to acknowledge things when they happen on social media. Derek Carr says one of the reasons he didn't come to New Orleans, maybe the reason he didn't come to New Orleans on time, was his wife had a miscarriage. They didn't know she was pregnant, had a miscarriage. That's a traumatic thing. There are so many pieces to this, and there are so many layers to it, and it's so tangled in deception versus reality versus PR versus miscommunication. There's just a lot. And ultimately, the analyst in me, with the information I have, continues to arrive at the same conclusion. Like, it's time to give Tyler Shough the football. That's my conclusion. I don't know who they play in the first game of the season. Who gives the Saints the best chance to win in the first game of the season? Healthy Derek Carr. I don't know how realistic it is that Derek Carr is there and healthy, but he gives them the best chance to win game 1 of this season. I don't care about game 1 of this season. I care about the continuity of the franchise, turning over a new leaf, and pursuing something that may have a higher upside than what we've watched the last 2 years. That's where I arrive. And I don't know about Diana Rossini's sources, and I don't know about Ian Rappaport's sources, and I don't know about Derek Carr's shoulder, and I certainly don't know about any family tragedy they may have had. All that stuff is beyond my scope. I'm just looking at the franchise in the fall, and it's time to give the keys to somebody else. That's the ultimate conclusion that I arrive at. I'm not here to make fun of people. I'm not here to rant and rave and laugh. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm just here to arrive at a conclusion. In the first week of the 2025 NFL season, my anticipation, my hope is that Tyler Shough is the quarterback of the Saints. And you know what? There's a better than 50% chance, if that happens, that it flames out like most quarterbacks do in the NFL. but at least you tried. That's where I am on the Derek Carr situation. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.